Hello everyone, welcome to another round of Chitter Chatter. Today we have with us author Ashwini Malhotra and we are going to be talking about mythology, his current books, the Cursed Gem trilogy which is just out there and everyone is loving it. So welcome on this podcast and hope you enjoy the Chitter Chatter with us.
Hey, thanks for inviting me, Shweta, and it's pleasure to be on this Chitter Chatter.
So some stories entertain us, some intrigue us, and your story does a lot many more things to us. So before we get started with the mythological world, I would love
Mhm.
to know the author himself.
Well, I'm a very simple man, actually. Shweta, my writing is my passion. Professionally, I'm an IT. You can say I'm an IT professional for last more than 25 years.
And when was the first encounter with storytelling for you?
Well, essentially, I mean, we all start being an audience. So I had been listening to the stories from my grandparents, from my parents. So be it a story of mythology, of course, we all start with, where our elders try to teach you the morals, right? So from there, know about the national leaders and heroes and all that. So it started from there. And then from there on, I got a bit intrigued into movies, right? I mean, which I think most of our in India, I think either you are a cricket fan or you are a movie buff as
Movie
such.
fan. Yeah.
I'm actually both. Yeah. So I think the movies intrigued me, then stories, and from there on, the journey has been on. Telling the stories, probably it became a you know. As a part of journey, like, I mean, when you become a father, then of course you start telling the stories to your little ones, and then you need to start cultivating yourself and your ideas. And then, of course, in the profession also, nowadays I think everything is a story, right? So that's how it started.
So were you always drawn to the mystery or power driven stories?
No, actually, I've been driven to the good stories. Simple. So if it's a good story, it could be, it could be very light story, very good, even love stories for that matter, or even comedies or whatsoever. So I mean, as long as it is a good story, entertaining, and if probably it teaches you something a bit, then that's what probably draws me to it.
Let's talk about the Cursed Gem trilogy, which is being loved out there. People are loving the book. I keep seeing the reviews. I have read the book, and your books always want us to know more. It just doesn't leave us. We complete the book, then we are in that world. So let's talk about where did this idea spark?
Okay. So firstly, I think I must say that I'm truly thankful and appreciate, acknowledge all the readers been showering with their love, their feedback, because knowing what you've written sometimes it does help, right? And frankly, I never thought about writing a trilogy. It started as an idea that, okay, I thought there was a mix of bit of mythology, come history fiction, and then bit of a good, राजाओं की कहानी मैंने कहा थोड़ा सा बनाते हैं ऐसे something, and that is how the part one actually came in. And part two got naturally drawn because people were totally, I got a lot of feedback that, okay, we need to know what's happening next. Part three, I mean, it took a bit of time, but again, I must say the readers were very keen to know what happens next. So essentially, I was not much keen of writing part three. I'll be very honest about it.
Thank God
But
you wrote.
no, I of course, of course. But part three was good. I mean, introducing dragons and a lot of new other features. So it was a bit of challenge, but it was like, when the people are telling you that, okay, we need to know more and we need to know and understand this bit more. So that's how the part three actually came in. The idea for that actually sparked it, I think I would say, when we were in the COVID phase, where I think we were revisiting Ramayans and Mahabharatas. And when we were watching it when we were very young, it was different because at that time, just say elders are saying, "Ki dekho, aisa hai, waisa hai," and we were just simply blindly following. Now that you have your rational thoughts on, you start thinking, Ki, does it actually would have happened like this? Or, looking at the modern or bit of a rational view, maybe things could have been slightly different than what you see as such.
So, if we talk about the gem, Where what would you want to tell our viewers about origin of the gem, the symbolism of it?
Okay. So, well, the idea was, I think, broadly two things. Uh, there were a lot of questions, right? I mean, and this actually, see, I believe a lot of ideas or stories have their own destiny. So it doesn't originate where you sit and you say, I would like to write this. It comes from some discussion, some idea, some things you stumble upon, and certain things that keeps on knocking you that, okay, ye kaise hua hoga yo. So one idea that actually, or maybe one event about Mahabharata, when Ashwasthama was cursed, right? About at the end of the whole story of Mahabharata, where he was cursed. But there was a very strange event, right, where Krishna gave him the curse. The god is giving a curse to somebody, but before giving a curse, he had to take away that gem from that guy. Then I thought, why does it when you are in an anger and when there is some anxiety is happening, you're so much in anger, you simply will do what you have to do. But you
Right.
thought probably my curse will work, not work. Let me take out the gem. And I said the other thing was while Krishna was trying to give him the curse, and the curse was of immortality, which is a strange thing, because immortality generally you see is supposed to be a free ticket to be on this place forever, as such, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
people take it as a boon more.
it is a boon, right? So, all the immortals that we talk about, we consider them to be very highly regarded as such. And how can that be a curse for this Mr. Ashwasthama? So, and that was a slightly an intriguing part. And secondly, how did Krishna, who was considered to be the mortal himself, how did he had the power to give an immortality to somebody? So those two questions probably it started from there, and then I thought maybe there is something a bit more that which we generally see in the text of Mahabharata or the text around that. So I thought let me do a bit of dig bit more as such. And of course there are a lot of stories about Ashwasthama. He's still there and all that. So वो story को लेके मैंने थोड़ा I thought let me maneuver a bit. And then there was other plot which I had, which is about political uh, conflicts and all that. तो थोड़ा उसको मैंने इनके साथ कनेक्ट करके I thought let it would become bit more of presentable, more interesting, and that's how it actually got cooked. Bit of masala khichdi
According
or biryani, you can say.
वो खिचड़ी से कब बिरयानी बन गई पता ही नहीं चला काइंड
Yeah,
ऑफ
yeah,
थिंग.
yeah.
So according to you, is
Mhm.
the gem inspired by a real myth or a legend?
Uh, it's a legend, I would say, yes.
Again, if I come back to you as a writer,
Mhm.
do you build the world first or do you build the characters first?
Well, it goes. I mean, it's not that I list down the characters to begin with or to the world. So, be it Kala Ghoda or be it the Cursed Gem or any of my typical stories, I typically put up my the whole plot or my the story plotting. I do that, which is like what the story is, how the story is going to go, and in that, while you're doing that, you probably also see what are the key points, key highlights, what's the message that you want to give, and then which are the key highlights that you want to do. And when you start doing that, of course some key characters are always there when you begin with, right? I mean, if you're trying to write a story about two kingdoms, there will be some king here, there will be some kings there. If you're writing a story about Ashwasthama and the gem, there will be Ashwasthama and a story around that as such. So some few characters are there, but not all the character sketchup is there, and their character detailing probably happens along with the story, right? I mean, then you have to justify whether this event or this kind of an act can be done by this character or not. It depends on. So it's a lot of back and forth that happens, but I think primary idea is that I focus more on the story, and then the characters tags along with that as such.
So, you mentioned right now Kala Ghoda and Curse Gem. They're like two different worlds altogether. Yes,
Right,
the politics are there, the characters are vast and bold.
right.
So, when you have to write two different worlds, like being the same author, the same person, how does it happen?
A good storyteller should be able to tell a good story. Doesn't matter, and that's what I believe in, right? I mean, I don't believe in to be honest, Shweta, आजकल काफी कुछ हो चुका है. There are some people who specialization in mythology, some are historians. So you are not the storyteller, then you're a mythologist or you're a historian. or you are a comedy storyteller. So a storyteller should be able to tell any story, and that's what I believe in, right? I mean, you cannot stick to a one particular genre. So if you're a good storyteller, you should be able to comfortably talk about anything as such, or you should be able to produce a good story. That's all.
What is the hardest part? Like, is it hard writing a trilogy or a standalone?
Mm, there is no hard as such. I mean, if you know the craft, I think you can do both. The good part, I think, or the important part is that you need to be a good storyteller. You should know how to convey your story, how it should unravel. It shouldn't be flat, and how you keep on engaging the audience till the end, so that it shouldn't be not too much of predictable, or something new that you're bringing on the table. So that's more important than whether you're writing one book or you're writing three books or five books. That doesn't matter.
A quick question. If the cursed gem existed in real life, would you keep it or destroy it?
Ah, good question. I will keep it, of course. I will, of course, keep it. Though it's a curse, but I mean, no, there's a lot of. I think for that, people should read what it is. So it's a very powerful thing, right? So why would you like to destroy it? So I think the right use of it can do wonders. So better to keep it with you.
Your story, The Cursed Gem, feels rooted in something deeper, almost like history meets imagination.
True.
So, any Indian mythology inspirations?
Essentially, it was more close to Mahabharat, as if you, I mean, in my the first two books as well. I have also very consciously at the end of the book, I have put some of the kind of an analysis about both the Mahabharata and some bit of Ramayana as well, just to give the ideas that what actually intrigued me, or what was the analytic view of some of the pointers. May not be everything, but some of the pointers which I thought probably was interesting. So Mahabharata was mostly, I would say, that.
Any historical references that you might want to address to the readers that you think they must have missed or anything that sorts?
Well, I think seeing the history, history and mythology are very interesting, and actually, I do take some lectures onto that because, see, nowadays there's a big debate that people believe Ramayana, Mahabharata are not mythology; they are very much history. So people do challenge, and there is nothing wrong about believing that, but rationally understanding it, if it was what it was, then because when you start talking it as a history, then there has to be clear defined dates, names, events. You should be able to articulate that. And there are a lot of historic things as well which are fiction. So, like, I mean, if you see some of one of the points from the history, we broadly follow, like, I mean, we follow the Gregorian calendar properly, but in Hindus we follow Samvat, Vikram Samvat hum follow karte hain. But whose Vikram that we are following? People would typically point it out to Vikramaditya, but there had been five, six Vikramaदित्यas in the history. सो तो फिक्शन तो आपको माइथोलॉजी में भी मिलेगा, फिक्शन आपको हिस्ट्री में भी मिलेगा, बट यू शुड बी एबल टू decode it, right? I mean, whether people are trying to tell you the truth, or there is bit of a mirch masala added to that.
So, do you believe that ancient stories still influence the modern storytelling?
uh, has to be because of course history does repeat, and we always get influenced by what has happened in the past. You cannot be uprooted. And I think stories, when you talk about whether like we I think most of the people who follow the stories, I think there are five six genres in which all the stories would fall. So it cannot be that you will be inventing any new genre. It is like, how do you play with those ingredients in the right way and make it a rich product? So yeah, they do influence.
Do you think power always comes with a price, even in real life?
Of course, nothing is free.
So, real world parallels to the power struggle, according to you.
Hmm. Can you bit clarify this question? Maybe
See,
so.
your both the books talk
Hmm.
about the power, be
Hmm.
it Kala Ghoda, be it the Cursed Gem. The
Hmm.
whole game, the whole
Hmm.
a very subtle line is of the power game. So, in
Hmm.
real world, also there are parallels of power struggles. What is your take on this?
Yeah, people do. I mean, see, people do. Yeah, that's always there. There is always people who seek power, and for everybody, definition of power is very different. For some people, people believe dominance is power. Some people believe money is power, but everybody have a different definition. Like everybody have a different definition of success. Power has a different meaning to everybody.
Was there a moment while your research that genuinely gave you goosebumps?
Yeah, there was a time, I think. I'll be very okay. I cannot be too frank, but yeah, I think there were times where even when I was writing and then reading and editing, वो जो process चल रहा था, काफी बार ऐसा लगा कि यार we are something good is happening, and maybe did it actually happen like this? What I'm trying to present it here as such, because when you're writing, you are wearing a different cap. When you're reading it as an audience. So it was like a bit of key. Okay, how would this come through? But then interesting. It was an interesting journey for me as well. Yeah.
Every reader connects differently with different characters. Who is the closest to your heart?
I think all of them because I created them, so I think all of them has to be. But yeah, I think, and in each, I think if you're talking Curse Gem specifically, then in part one there was a character called Gopi, who was a storyteller. I liked him, but then there was story Guru Bhargava, Surya, all I mean were close to me, and I liked their psychic, and I mean, since you are producing them, you are making them, they are somewhere part of you as such, right? So I think these three characters in the part one, part two, I think was especially Surya, which I think I could more relate to as such.
Like you said, they are all favorite because they're produced by you. But
Hmm.
when you're taking a mythological character like Ashwathama, he's also a very complex character in history.
Right.
So, how difficult is it as a writer to write a complex character?
See, it is complex, but I think one, be it a good or a bad side of it about Ashwasthama, is that people believe that they know quite a bit about him. But maybe if you ask anybody in detail, I think they will not know more than two or three events about Ashwasthama. I mean, they just probably know that he was a son of Dronacharya, and then maybe he was cursed, or he was friend of Duryodhan. But you don't know his, psychic or what's it. So it was somewhere in that, even I mean, in that context, it was slightly easier for me to modulate and give my version story of Ashwasthama to this. So it was slightly easy. Modulating Karna or Arjun may would have been difficult.
When you're building your characters, some of them which are fictional, were there any of them inspired by the real life people?
Inspired, yes. Inspired, probably yes.
And when you're writing your characters, you're building them. Which character surprised you the most while you were writing your book?
Okay. So it's a see, writing as a process is a very interesting journey, right? So when you start writing, you start creating those characters, right? But at some point of time, those characters challenge you. Like I said, right? I mean, you define those character sketches that this is how, this is the boundary, this is what the character can do, this is what the character cannot do. But you define the story in such a way, and then sometimes that character comes and talks to you that okay, you cannot do this with me, or maybe I cannot do this, right? Because when I'm talking as an Iqbal Malik, would Iqbal Malik, I'm sorry, I'm going here in Kalakoda, will Iqbal Malik, go against his own mentor, or how would he do that, or how would Surya handle the conflict that he has with in custom? How would he handle the conflict that he has with his son? How would he convince him? Or the dilemma that Shiva had in the part two as such. So uh, the challenge is there at some point of time when you define bit too much. ये बच्चों के साथ भी होता है, I'm sorry, I'm father also, so you see that, आप बच्चों को पढ़ाते हो सब कुछ, and sometimes then they will tell you the lesson that you have given to them, and then you feel that okay, maybe you need to straighten up a bit, or maybe fix yourself.
If your characters from Curse Gem walked into Mumbai today, who you think would have survived the chaos?
I think Mumbai would have to survive.
Also, what's your writing routine like?
Uh, See, the writing routine that way, Shweta, like I said, I'm not a professional writer. I it's a hobby, it's a passion. So if some idea that strikes me, then I sit with it and try to work it as a project. So I don't do it like throughout the year I will not be writing. So, and I try to put it a very strict timelines that okay, I will need to project complete this is a project. Let's say maybe in you start with maybe in months time, maybe I mean saying 3 to 4 months or 6 months, something like that. हो जाता है कभी कभी 6 8 महीने भी हो जाता है कभी कभी साल भी हो जाता है. But I'm saying you try to put some timeline to that, and I work on those kind of schedule. And of course I have to give a time to myself and then to my other team members also, I mean who's part of my family, to do the editing part, because that's also important. And if you don't do that, then this becomes and since you have to balance it out with my other endeavors, so it becomes slightly. It's very important to be disciplined in this area. That
Writing block is a myth or a reality?
it is a reality.
And how do you overcome that?
Like I mentioned, I try to put up a strict timeline. And coming from I mean, my management working style, when you put your timelines up there, you need to start working towards it. And secondly, what happens is, see, creative things sometimes cannot just work as you cannot slog and you can finish it. Sometimes the juices need to be there. Sometimes you need to have those ideas. In that order, what I do typically is you always take 2 steps back, go and read what you have written. Probably it will help you in building up and fasten up the things. But do put up some kind of a dates and timelines for yourself. And that does help, because if you don't do that, then that's, I would say, a sign of indiscipline as such.
One piece of advice that you would want to give aspiring writers out there.
One piece of an advice. Okay, it may be strange, but I mean, that's what I believe in. See, write something that you love to watch or read as an audience. Typically, I think nowadays people do write, uh, just to please people or to please the readers. But be an audience by yourself. See if you would like to consume that content, then do write that as such. Don't just write it for only for commercial purpose, because it doesn't go that far.
Like you said, that don't write for commercial purposes, which majority people are doing
Not
today.
only, not only, not only for commercial purpose.
True. Commercials are important, and
Important, yes.
appreciation is very important for every person who's working on this craft.
Yes, yes, yes. So like I think it's said, no? I mean, if you are writing with the right intents, right skills, if your story is good, it will automatically work. You don't have to work on the commercials first. People do कि मुझे हॉरर लिखना है या मुझे लव स्टोरीज लिखनी है या बहुत सारे पॉपुलर जॉनर्स हैं. डोंट जंप सिंपली फोर्स टू दैट. अगर स्टोरी और आपका उसमें आर्ट है, यू कैन डू दैट, देन डू इट. ठीक है. आई मीन, so don't just simply do it for the sake that because that's in the trend, because there is no trend. You can set the trends.
Well, we talk about setting trends. Your book is setting trends out there. You are getting some amazing reviews. How does it feel, when you've created something and it's been loved by people? What is the high there?
I would say I'm satisfied. I mean, to be honest, see, like I said, I never wanted. I mean, intent was never to be doing this professionally. So it was like it's like your hobby to plant a tree or something. And अगर अच्छे फूल आ रहे हैं, आपको अच्छा appreciation मिल रहा है, and people are able to understand what you're trying to convey, and sometimes even debate also with you कि यार ये कैसे आपने कर दिया, ये क्यों हो गया. That it gives you good feel that you are able to deliver what you thought. Or and since it is a passion, there is no strings attached, so it's a passion, you love it. And if you're able to deliver to your audience, you love it, you enjoy it. So I'm very satisfied, very thankful. And yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, the old authors and a lot of renowned authors say that marketing is very important for a book, especially in today's time. So, what is your take on this?
I totally endorse it. Marketing is very, very important. And see, जो दिखता नहीं है वो बिकता नहीं है. So like I said, commercially, see, I'm doing self publishing, so I know I do right from uh, doing the creative aspects to publishing it. I take care of the whole thing. So commercially भी वो चीज it should be it should work out. So that does make sense. So but I think marketing, I definitely believe it should be done, and it is very important. Lot of products nowadays are only working because of good marketing. So marketing is very important as aspect of it. But nevertheless, I would say, those old school thought, if your product is of quality, sometimes it will speak by itself. Word of mouth, बहुत सारी चीजें अपने आप चल जाती हैं. और आप मार्केटिंग करते रहोगे और अगर प्रोडक्ट में दम नहीं है तो कहीं ना कहीं वो जाके चीज रुक जाती है. So do marketing, it's important, but only by good marketing you will not be able to succeed or be good.
Quick questions. One word for power.
Corrupts.
One myth you wished it was real. I think we've lost you.
Hello.
Ah, yeah. Back to you. One myth you wish was real.
This immortality, this immortality, and the immortals like Hanumanji was actually real and do exist. I hope it is.
A book that changed your life.
Many. The Count of Monte Cristo, Godfather, quite a few, many.
One secret about your writing process.
I would say creative plus a bit unorganized.
One thing you want to say for Kala Ghoda.
Fantastic. Oh, one word, or you
One,
said one word, one
no,
thing?
even that would do.
Fantastic is fine. Good, good.
One word or a sentence for the Cursed Gem trilogy.
Uh, I think it's a good global story. I think that people should be able to take it, and it probably, if I think I'm seeing some of the people in the outside India also are reading that, so it probably like how the Game of Thrones and Lord of Rings have entered our television sets and our houses. I hope our stories also reach beyond India.
What is the one lesser known incident from the Mahabharata while you were researching, or maybe you've heard, that you believe deserves as much attention as the Kurukshetra war itself?
Okay, so see, there were actually many events. If when you do this research, I mean, when you start going into details of the things, but see, जैसे आप पूछ रहे थे कि character and story, so it both comes hand in hand. I will give you two incidents and quickly. See, Duryodhan is considered to be the negative character, very childish, very stubborn, and a lot of such things, right? And not able to think through properly. But if you see two incidents, one I think which is at the very end, and this probably people would know that the last fight where he was been called out, and Yudhishthir told him, you can pick either of us or any of
Yeah.
the five. The guy who was so desperate and who has lost everything, and who probably should be full of hate, right? But he still chose Bhim. He could have picked up Knuckles, Dev, anybody, right? And he could
Mm.
have won. But he was not the man of that ethos what probably has been projected. He chose the right one, or who would be competitive to him. So that speaks about his character. There was also one other thing that defines his character, which is very less known. So there were this during the war itself. There were some. It was a stage where Duryodhan was very upset with Bhishma, and he told him that somehow I see that you're not serious in killing this Pandavas, right? So because it was not possible that Bhishma cannot kill anybody if he
True.
decides to, right? So the most bravest warrior, most strongest warrior, you should be able to do that. And Bhishma promised him. He prepared a weaponry. Maybe there were five weapons, he said. And tomorrow morning, when I enter the battle, the justice will be done, or maybe this all five pandas be sorted out. And this somehow, through spy network, Mr. Krishna got to know, and he asked Arjun to reach out to Duryodhan, because Duryodhan has promised Arjun, when he was once saved by Gandharvas, that one wish that you may ask. Anytime you can come to me, I will do that. So Arjun went to Duryodhan, not to Bhishma. He went to Duryodhan and asked for those five arrows. If those five arrows would have used, the battle
Hmm.
would have been too different. But Duryodhan, again on that day, he returned all those five arrows, which he knew would have changed the course of the thing. And nobody was there to judge him, right? So those were certain few things which probably defined the characters and could have changed the course of the history as such, or maybe the course of the battle.
Like many a times there's a thing where Duryodhana is taken, like you said in the beginning, as stubborn child, but he's always done the right.
Not
Like
always right, not always right, but I mean, he is a character.
comparatively, what is expected out of him, like, be it returning the arrows and all of it. So, do you think that the standard narrative of this one being like this one being like this, has been made in so many years now?
Of course, of course. See, two things. First, in very general, I think we all know the history or mythology or anything that we talk about is written by the victors. So you
Correct.
will always see that narration, right? And whether it is Mahabharata, whether it is Ramayana, whether it is any story, right? So you will always have the victors writing that what has happened. Right? And second point is, uh, Mahabharata was actually written over the period of time. So I think if people go back and check the reality and the facts, uh, there is a misconception, or probably sometimes people take it for granted, that Vyasa wrote the Mahabharata, right? If you look at Mahabharata, was actually what Vyas ji wrote was actually simple Jaya, which is actually a poetry kind of a thing, and which describes there is a conflict within the family and the cousins are fighting, and a tragedy end that maybe for materialistic benefits you kill your the loved ones, and what is the what you gain out of that, kind of more simple some message tha. This and that was, if you look at it, today's proportion of Mahabharata that you see, वो उसका 20% भी नहीं होगा.
Yeah.
Though characters would be there, but not all the kind of events which are being explained. So lot of that you read probably was not written by Mr. Vyasji.
Like we said, there are numerous versions of
Yes, yes,
Mahabharata.
yeah.
Some are traditional, some are written, some are now even point of views. Which lesser known variation of the story fascinated you the most when you were doing your research?
See, there is like you rightly said, there are many versions, and then there are different stories, right? So, because Pandavas had traveled across, the Bharat. So, I mean, there are some stories that you might see in the northeastern belt. There are some different stories in the south as well. So, there is one interesting thing. I mean, if you see that there is a son of Ghatotkach, Barbaric, who was sacrificed before the war, and a similar narration is there in the south. There is a son of Arjun called Airavan. He is actually worshipped. So if you see, he was also sacrificed before the war, right? And both are worshipped like a kind of demigod or god kind of a concept nowadays. I think Barbaric is worshipped as Chatu Khan Shamji in Rajasthan side of an area. In south, you might see Airavan has been worshipped. But this notion of sacrificing the kids before the war, if you relate to that in today's time, today काफी हद तक कम हो गया, but in the olden era you would see there was बलि का एक प्रथा होती थी. So the person who love you, whom you love the most, बच्चों की बलि दी जा रही है, वो कहीं ना कहीं इन सब चीजों से कनेक्ट होके निकली है. But I think these two versions I saw, that Barbaric and Airavan, kind of similar kind of a story. They both sacrificed, they were ready to sacrifice themselves before a war, and the parents wanted to sacrifice their own kids, to win the war. I mean, that was something.
Who is the most overlooked character in the Mahabharata, and why do you think their story remains unexplored?
There are many actually, because there are many characters, so you will not have one or two. But I would say somebody who's there, but you don't know much about him, um would be Ghatotkaч.
Okay.
Interestingly, because he participated in the war, you would see that he was there. He saved Arjun by taking up the Shakti, but there is not much of the story or built up around him, right? But if you see some of the short stories, you will see that he was cursed by even Draupadi. Yeah,
Why
there are.
so?
This happened when they did this Indraprasth thing,
Mm-hmm.
and Hidimba was actually the first, uh, first Bahu of the house. She was the first lady, right? So she had probably suggested when Ghatotkaч had visited to Indraprasth to respect the elders. Somehow Ghatotkaч skipped respecting Draupadi, and Draupadi rightly cursed him that you will die, young as such. So वैसे बहुत सारी छोटी मोटी stories हैं, but I don't know whether these are the reals. Like we said, some people would have added it, but this is what some bit of character of Ghatotkaч is there, that he was not there with his family all the time, but when the family needed him, he stood up. His son was sacrificed by the elders, but he still stood up and supported his family. So an interesting character, but I mean, if people explore him a bit more, there will be more psychic that will come. And he was, by the way, also the prince or the king of his own tribe.
There are a lot of women in Mahabharata, obviously, as there are so many men. But
Yep.
it's always Draupadi who has been spoken about
Yeah.
in details. So,
Yeah.
what is your take on the women characters being so strong and supportive in their own way?
See, again, rightly, there are many characters: Draupadi, Kunti, Gandhari, and they are the main central characters who signify the power, and there's. But I would say the power is not how you can dominate and how you push the things across, but how much you give also is important, right? So I will name only three here. One is Bhanumati, okay, and Subhadra and Hidimba. All three had given a lot of sacrifices. Right? I mean, Subhadra was the mother of Abhimanyu, wife of Arjun, and very few people would know that she was the one who groomed all the five sons of Draupadi when they were in Vanvas. Right, so she took care of all the children. She took care. She didn't mind it to be secondary to Draupadi, right? And she didn't want. She didn't mind it. Draupadi was dominating. Whether Draupadi had put a lot of other conditions that no other wife can stay with these five Pandavas and all that. So be it Hidimba, be it Subhadra, they were all powerful, strong, and were coming from the strong families, powerful families. But they understood, they negotiated. But you see, the childrens of both of them, be it Hidimba's son Ghatotkaч or be it Subhadra's son Abhimanyu, they were groomed in such a way that they knew when their family needs them, they will stand up, right, for their parents. They they respected their elders, and all the right virtues and things were with them as such. And of course, so that is what Bhanumati, very underrated character. I don't know whether you know this, but she was the wife of Duryodhan, right? So very less is written about her. I mean, imagine a lady who would face her husband who has just come. द्रौपदी का जब चीरहरण करके अगर दुर्योधन घर पे आया होगा, तो भानुमति would have also faced him, right? And Bhanumati is considered to be one of the very strong character, because after the Mahabharat war, what happened is very less written.
Hmm.
And there is a saying, I don't know whether you would have heard about this, but पुराने जमाने में कहा जाता था कि कहीं की ईंट कहीं का रोड़ा, भानुमति ने कुंभा जोड़ा. So that was that after the war was over, uh, both the sides of the family, a lot of deaths had happened, few people were there. So Bhanumati somehow put together the family, because there was a lot of sadness, a lot of things. The relations were broken, but she put together the rest of the family to see that how they sustain and move on for the research.
And very, very, very less spoken about.
Very less spoken. Very, very few people know about her.
Mahabharat, like we said, have countless characters, countless stories, and which story that you feel carries a profound wisdom for the contemporary readers?
Okay. Um, See, I would say in today's time, again, quickly two. One is uh, people should read about Duryodhan and Karna's friendship. See, it was an interesting, association that they both had, uh, and though दोनों के parents and दोनों के relatives, they both were not against, they were not favor of their friendship, because it was like, Duryodhan was the prince and Karna was coming from the lower class. But I think they get together. They never had any differences. They had undying faith and trust between each other. But at the same time, the kind of a relationship that they maintain for each other, that's very, very important, interesting. The other one is, and which I have used in the curse gem, is barbaric, where he couldn't distinguish the difference between the right and the good. I will only support the one, the weaker caste, but it doesn't mean the weaker would be the right thing to
Good.
do all the
Yeah.
time. So these two.
If you had to recommend one overlooked section of the Mahabharata for the first time reader, which would it be and why?
Again, many, there are many, because again, like you rightly said, many versions. So कुछ कहीं पे आप कुछ पढ़ोगे, कहीं पे आप कुछ पढ़ोगे. But what happens? There are so many things which are written already available, but somehow we don't notice it, right? Like yeah, some people would find it very interesting, and very few would know that Krishna was very closely related to Duryodhan, right? I mean, Krishna's son Samba was married to Duryodhan's daughter Lakshmana, and that marriage probably was, not very smooth, and
Okay.
that probably could also be one of the reasons where some of the egos were hurt and could have resulted where Krishna was not very happy with Duryodhan.
So, like you have done so much immense research when it comes to Mahabharata and the history that, we keep getting insights. Do you still feel the quest to search more and find more?
So, like I think, Seshwat, there is still quite a lot that I don't know, and I think, like me, there are many people who are still wondering, learning, because we are all in the journey, right? I mean, and even if you don't know whether you know the real things or the fact things, right? So it's a journey, but I'm not very, like I said, I'm happy, satisfied, and still exploring and learning, and so I'm like a student to this.
So before we exit today's chitter chatter and come back for some more after your further books, one thing you would like our readers to like you would like to give a note or a piece of advice on which we would leave our leaders to.
Oh, yeah, I'm not okay. Kya do my advice? But I think uh, in this today's time, I think the point is try to decode the information or the details that are given to you, or uh, I think I'm not prepared for giving any advice as such. All I can say, yeah, khush raho, enjoy, be happy, and I think what comes to my mind, after some of the personal losses that I have seen in the recent time, I believe there is a currency that we all value, which is a human currency, and there is a currency that we all have been given by somebody, God. Value the what is given by them, right? Time, your health. That's more important than the currency, which is just a monetary paper. That's all. थोड़ा
Thank
ज्यादा
you
heavy हो
so
गया.
much for your time and for this chitter chat. It really means a lot, and we're looking forward to hearing from you in form of your books, which we are anxiously waiting for.
Pleasure was all mine. I think I enjoyed. Good questions. Thank you so much for putting me on the spot. I was not prepared for all this, interesting questions, but it was good questions. Thank you so much for having me. Can I ask a question to you and to your readers
Sure.
a bit? I will only ask three questions, and I might
Okay.
even give my some one of the books if I like the answers, right? So, and since you are asking me all about the Mahabharata, I will ask the question on Ramayana. Okay, if
Oh.
any. So, just one question. I mean, question about Ravan. Okay. Uh, Anybody who answers right and not first 4 or 5 ways of question. If I like the answers and you are giving the right answers, I will give away my book. I'm not sure Kala Ghoda ya Kasja, but if I like the answers and what is your liking, I'm open to give the book. Ravan, what was his real name? Where was he born? This is especially for the people who believe Ramayana is actually a history. So give me the real name of Ravan. Please try to tell me where he was born. And the third fact would be what was his age at the time of the Lanka War?
Wow, that is some interesting thing to leave our readers and viewers on this chitter chatter. So, all the people out there who are going to watch this chitter chatter, stay glued till the end because there is this small quiz that the author has done with you all. Answer these three questions and let's see if you win a chance to read the author's books, a gift from the author personally signed. So thank you once again for this chitter chatter and for this end for our viewers.
Thank you, Shweta. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye.